please, the court? What is your name and occupation?
My name is Devaney, and I am the chemistry teacher at Truman High School.
Could you tell the jury a little more about yourself?
I received my BS in chemistry in 1981. I worked at the Missouri State Highway Patrol Criminalistics Lab as a forensic chemist, and I tested substances. And I took night school because I didn't like my job. So I took night school, and I got my teaching degree. And in 1985, I became a teacher at Truman High School. And in 1988, I became the head basketball coach.
Okay, and how do you know Chris Hall?
Chris Hall is in my third-hour advanced chemistry class.
How long have you known Chris Hall?
I've known Chris Hall since he was a freshman, 4 years.
Okay, and how do you know Taylor Jennings?
Taylor Jennings is also in my third-hour advanced chemistry class.
Okay, and how often do you see Chris?
I see Chris every day.
And what about Taylor Jennings?
I also see her every day.
Okay, and how do these students interact with each other?
They're quite competitive. They always try to one-up each other, turning exams first.
Okay. Now I'd like to ask you some questions about methamphetamines. As a former chemist for the criminalistics lab, are you familiar with the side effects of meth?
Yes.
Okay, could you please tell us some of the short-term effects of using methamphetamines?
Increased nervousness, irritability, and paranoia.
Okay, based on your observations of Chris over the past 4 years, have you ever observed Chris showing any increase of irritability or paranoia?
No, I have not.
Or have you ever seen Chris exhibit any increase in nervousness?
No.
Okay, could you please explain some of the long-term effects of methamphetamines?
Endurance and respiratory problems, tremors, audio and visual hallucinations, and others.
Okay, have you ever seen Chris experience a tremor?
No.
And has Chris showed any symptoms of having audio or auditory or visual hallucinations?
No.
And have you ever seen Chris exhibit any increase in aggression?
No.
Okay, do you recall the events of the day with the meth incident with Chris?
I do.
Okay, Your Honor, the defense has a blown-up copy of the plaintiff's exhibits F, the seating chart.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. And this is an accurate representation of your, is this an accurate representation of your classroom?
It is, except for the desks. They're a little larger.
Okay, could you give us a rough estimation of the dimensions of your room?
Roughly 25 by 30.
Okay, I'm going to be writing 30 at the top and 25 at the side over here. Okay, could you please explain how that day began?
Okay. I walked into my classroom, and my students were coming in. I went up to the blackboard, and we were doing a sheep cloning experiment that day, and I started writing the instructions and explaining them.
Okay, and what exactly do you do for instructions?
I stand at the blackboard, and I write them, and I turn around and explain them to the class.
Okay, and do you remember which lab table Taylor Jennings was at?
The far left table by the window.
Approximately here?
Yes.
I'm going to be putting a T and a J for Taylor Jennings. Okay, and do you remember where Cody Grant was sitting?
Cody Grant was at the middle table on the right side, facing the window.
Okay, approximately here?
Yes.
I'm putting a C and a G for Cody Grant. And do you remember where Chris Hall was sitting that day?
Chris Hall was sitting at the far right table by the door.
Approximately here?
Yes.
I'm going to be putting a C and an H for Chris Hall. And Ms. Devaney, where were you standing this day?
I was standing at the blackboard.
Okay, I'm going to put a LD for Lee Devaney. Okay, do students do anything during instructions?
They're not supposed to.
Okay, and why exactly do students not get up during instructions?
Because we have dangerous chemicals, and if they move around, they could possibly spill and harm themselves.
Okay, and did Chris try to leave during instructions?
No.
And what happens if a student does try to leave during instructions?
I tell them to go back to their seat.
Okay, thank you.